Yeah, so there used to be a paper-based thing. Everyone who contributed to Social Security or qualifies for Social Security used to get it about 90 days before your birthday. Majority of people just kind of opened it up and said, what the heck is this? And especially younger folks, and probably just either mentally filed it away or filed it away in some box or maybe even shredded it as a cost-cutting measure. And I think it's actually a good idea. They're suppressing those statements now. So they really want individuals to go out to ssa.gov, so the Social Security Administration's website. Once you go in there, you can set up an account. There's an area called My Social Security. You can set up an account, and basically, once you have the account set up, you can look at your statement. So instead of getting a paper, based thing right in front of you, you can take a look at it online. You can move some numbers around if you want to recalculate or kind of go through some examples. It's very simplistic, the calculator, by the way, but it's a great piece of information, I think. And again, I think it's much easier and probably a little more flexible, a little bit more solid, I think, than getting something in the mail. Now, if people do prefer to get something in the mail, they could contact Social Security. So if I didn't set up an account, I'm close to 60, I could contact Social Security and say, could you please send me something in the mail? It may take 5 or 6 weeks, who knows, but you could get something. But again, I think with identity theft and the day and age we're in, you're probably better off setting up an account because, especially if you're a little bit older, your next step eventually is going to be to file for Social Security anyways. So why not set up an account now and at least check that off that you've got the process in place. And then as we get closer, maybe take a look at those pieces of information. And again, once you file, you're probably going to need access to the website anyways. No, we used to get them earlier. You could.
Okay.
So again, they don't want everybody just saying, send me a paper base, right? So all of us, and then it defeats the purpose. So if you're closer to 60 and you haven't set up an account, they will send you one, or you could request one. But again, I think it's a very simplistic type of piece of information. So why not just go out and set up an account? But if you did prefer to get a paper-based thing, it may take you a little bit of time to get that paper-based. Sure, I think you want to look at your benefit amount, what you're entitled to, and at different ages. So it may tell you when you're entitled to it 60, maybe, or I'm sorry, 62, maybe full retirement age between 66 and 67 for the majority of us. And then that maximum amount up to age 70. One of the keys though is it is a hypothetical. So I went out before our call and I looked at mine. I'm 60. So it tells me approximately how much, but some of the factors that go into that is the assumption that I'm going to continue to work for the next several years, that I'm earning about the same amount of income. If I'm not, then those numbers may change. So it's a hypothetical, but it does tell you that. It tells you, approximately when you can start, if you had a minor child, if you had a disability. So it gives you some additional information. If you have a spouse, what the age of the spouse, and you could run a calculation based on just you run a calculation based on, if you chose to look at your spouse and maybe a spousal beneficiary. So it gives you some good information. I think it's a great starting point. But I think one of the things we always try and caution people is it's a hypothetical. It's probably spot on. Secondly, more importantly, there's an area called sources of income. So you may want to just take a minute or two, click on that button, and just verify the information is correct with a grain of salt. Again, I went on and it said in 1979, I think I earned X amount of money. I don't know what I earned the last couple of years, let alone, 1979. But I do know approximately how much I've earned over the last 10 or 15 years. I just want to make sure that information is correct, because that information is probably a little bit more critical in the calculation. So if for some reason I was working at Hartford Funds for the past 5 years, earning X amount of money, but for some reason on Social Security, they had a bunch of zeros. Now's the time to correct that prior to taking a Social Security benefit. I think you're hard pressed to contact Social Security in your 70s, collecting a benefit payment for say 8 years and say, I think this information is incorrect. I think this dollar amount's wrong. It's very labor intensive to go back and try and change that. Why not correct it now? So I think 99.9% of the people that look at it, the information is probably going to be spot on. but it's worth having an extra look. And again, it's going to take you 2 minutes to just kind of confirm and look for the past 10 or 15 years, approximately how much you've earned. I mean, if there are zeros and it's legit, I moved out of the country for 2 years, or, I got laid off towards the end of the year and the dollar amount was lower or whatever. So, there may be reasons why those numbers fluctuate, but you just want to confirm that information. Yeah, there's probably two groups, right? And like anything else, I think, Social Security, like any group or organization, does the best they can to kind of qualify somewhere on that statement that it is a hypothetical. So I think there are some people that understand that, but then there's other people that say, no, 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 it says it right here. It says it black and white. So, and I think those are the ones probably that prefer the paper-based because they have that backup. Um, so I think either way, it's a great educational exercise to go through. Just confirm that information. They suppress those. I don't know exactly when, but I know personally, I haven't received a paper-based one in a number of years. So it's a good opportunity to go out and just double check, get the latest information. It does tell you about, if something doesn't happen with Social Security from a funding perspective, that 2034, 2037, they may pay 80 cents on the dollar or whatever. So I think it does give us some good information, but I think, a lot of folks really take that number to heart and say, this is the actual number, where there are some parameters. If you're going to continue, you're not going to retire for a few more years, you're going to continue to work, then I think you're fine. But if you know now there's going to be some life events, some things changing, you may want to be prepared for that. Yeah, I mean, if I was in my 30s or 40s, I probably would look at it maybe every 5 years or so, just to make sure that information's up to date. It's started. They've got a record of me. They've got a confirmation of the earnings. I think really where you want to pick up maybe not the pace, but your viewership or your attention to it is probably that mid 50 to early 60 type of time frame. Especially if I'm 62 or 63 and I'm thinking about retiring in the next couple of years, I want to make sure that I have that as one of the, pieces of information that I'm talking to my financial professional about. So I want to, spend 5 minutes and just get the most up to date information. But if you're in your 30s or 40s, you've got time on your side. So you may want to just have peace of mind and say, okay, I'm on the account. My name is in there. It's spelled correctly. They've got this information, and take that, hypothetical with a grain of salt. But as we get a little bit closer to our targeted retirement age, whatever that is, if it even is retirement, maybe we want to continue to work. But that time that we're going to withdraw it, I think that's what we want to probably pick up the consumption of it or the activity level. Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing. Second is taking a look at the number and realizing what that number is, and then taking that number back and really sitting down with a financial professional, maybe a tax professional as well, and saying, here's what it says. Now, we always talk about what's your goal, right? What do you need from a monthly basis for income? What are the other sources of income you have? Because now we know what you're going to get approximately from Social Security. Maybe there's an opportunity if you have a spouse, have them run one. So if you're married filing jointly and you're both going to contribute or you're both taking Social Security, you may want to look at both of those statements. But again, I think, that number is something you want to take back and sit down with a financial professional and say, okay, let's think about my IRA, my 401k. If you're lucky enough to get a pension, start to build that portfolio or start to build those sources of income. And more importantly, what is the ultimate number? Is it, I need $5,000 a month to live on a retirement, or 7,000, 10, whatever that number is, that's the most important number. And then you kind of backfill it in, I think, with your Social Security statement, maybe your retirement plan statement, those types of things, and then come up with what's the best game plan for you.